And welcome to the Fired Up Network. Welcome to the world famous, yes, the world famous soccer show, the first one of 2023. Carmen Osako will join us in about 20 minutes with uh, John Carlo Alino. Yes, I'm forgetful here because look, I'm wearing a shirt. And of course, look what I got. Look what I got. Everybody, look, it's on the right side here, but John Freeman Nelson. And by the way, in this book, John Nelson is an award winning television journalist for 30 years based in Atlanta. All
True.
right. He's also from OSG Sports. We're
True.
doing the soccer show here, but also today is National Holocaust Day, and this hits home for me because both my dad and my uncle are Holocaust survivors. Never forget, always remember, and I'm not going to go into a whole political thing, but now more than ever, considering what happened with COVID, considering you go to a supermarket and you know what happens, you go to the TTC and you know what happens. Just be safe and remember, be friendly to your fellow person, be it man, be it lady, be it anybody. Just go out there and live life to the fullest with no problems. All right. Now the long-awaited soccer show is here. I'm gonna pass it to Giancarlo. Giancarlo, do you remember how to do these?
Yeah.
All right,
Should be good.
here we go. Go ahead, Giancarlo.
Bang! All right. So what's on your mind? I guess you want to start with. Oh, wait a second. Hang on. I know who you want to start with. So give me a second. Give me a second. I know who you want to start with.
Gotta
Do you want
pull
to,
up those superstar stats there.
no. You wanted to start with the. You wanted to start with the acquisition of Roll Petretta. Am I right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I know you wanted to start with Sean Johnson. So go for it.
Yeah, so they finally made it official. It probably was one of the worst kept secrets just because they had him at a Raptors game and they put him on the screen and everything, even on the broadcast. And
Yeah.
based on what other companies and other sports do, if you put somebody on the broadcast, you better be 99.9% sure he's joining the team because
Oh, Sean, and
it wouldn't be a bad look.
What do you think of Toronto, Sean? Isn't it great to have you here at the Raptors game? Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, you have NYC. I mean, if you think about it for a minute, NYCFC is going to have a massive overhaul, and they're going to be a team. I think that folks in the Eastern Conference, may not sit there and say, okay, they won't finish as highly as they did last season. There's going to be a large there's going to be an affinity for NYC to be leaning on their younger talent, Tallis Magno, Keaton Parks, Tavon Gray, that kind of a thing, because you lose Tati Castellanos, you lose Eber to Seattle, you lose Maxi Morales, you lose Tinnerholm, you lose Callens, and now you've lost Sean Johnson to Toronto. NYC for me is going to be an interesting petri dish on how they try to reclaim what they did last season in Major League Soccer. But Toronto, bringing in Matt Hedges, which was big because they needed to do that at the back. You bring in you bring in Petretta to help you at the back, and you bring in Sean Johnson to really help you at the back because you lose Quentin Westberg to Atlanta United. You lose Alex Bono. So you got a lot of holes. And there's also the specter of what's going on with Juve. And if you're going to lose Bernadeschi for 30 days or whatever the suspension is going to be if everyone loses out on appeal. I mean, the Juve thing is a show in and of itself. But let's face it, Toronto FC at the back was a sieve last year. And you needed to bring in folks, and you bring in a quality keeper like Sean Johnson. That's a fantastic step in this. You bring in Matt Hedges to help you out at the back. Great idea. Is it going to be, I mean, let me ask you, do you think it's going to be PS5 again this year? Is it going to be one of those where it's going to be take the over, and it's going to be shootouts again? Or are you thinking things are going to calm down?
I would like to think they're going to calm down. I just don't know who Hedges is going to play with, like McNaughton, O'Neal. Like O'Neal has been proven at times, but it's going to be, I think, a revolving door. Like one guy's going to start one game, then the second game, they're going to probably switch it up. I would be surprised if we see a back three at times if they experiment with that, but I just don't know if Bradley likes to play like that. And it's going to be, I think early on, there's going to be some growing pains back there. Everyone coming in together. You lose Criscito. He's going back to Italy.
Well, and then
So,
now let me. Okay, so he. All right, so I'm gonna put my drink down. He retires, and then what was it? A month later, that his buddy did him a solid, and he ended up getting another contract to go back to play in Serie A. I mean, come on now. He retired, and then all of a sudden, a month later, he's employed.
yeah, that's
Serious.
interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting, as you say. In
Nice little loophole.
Yes, I've retired from MLS, but I'm going to go back home, and then I'm going to unretire and play in Serie A. So, no, I think that obviously the notion for Bob Bradley is to score an ishload of goals. But defense for me, and I think you've got a good point here early on, trying to figure out what those societies are that we always talk about. Those little societies, who pairs with whom, who knows where. If McNaughton and Hedges find a rhythm, that symbiotic relationship of, okay, I know Lucas is going to do this, so if I'm Matt, I need to do this in return. I think that's going to be interesting with the integration of everybody that's being brought in with all the big names at the back for Toronto, because they needed a boatload of help when it came to the offseason and coming into this year. So very interesting. But yeah, as you said, one of the worst kept secrets in Major League Soccer. And when NYC signed Matt Freese, you were wondering, okay, with all of these competitions that you're in, U.S. Open Cup, Leagues Cup, regular season, you're talking 50 games, and you're going to need a lot of depth. That's another question for Toronto FC. With all of these different competitions, the depth that's going to be required here. So, Matt Freese goes to NYC. Was he going to be the 1A or the 1B with Sean Johnson? Turns out now he's the 1A. And Sean Johnson's going to be the big dog in Toronto, because he'll end up getting the salary. I mean, I'm sure that they sat there and it's like, yeah, here's a toonie, Sean, sign for that. And he was all for it. But no, it's going to be very, very lucrative once again for Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, forking out paychecks to guys like Sean Johnson.
And what do you make, while they're on the topic here of TFC, they have an open DP spot, and I think everybody thought Bob Bradley would have been a little bit more aggressive. Obviously, their ownership hasn't been shy of making big moves. Do you think it's detrimental in a way to keep a DP spot like that open throughout the year?
I think it depends really on your philosophy. I mean, with a guy like Garth Lagerwey here in Atlanta, who is now focusing on the business side of things with his president and CEO role, he's always been methodical in his process. If the idea for Toronto FC is to be methodical, then you sit there. I mean, right now, as we're talking, we only have, 4 days left in the January transfer window. Yes, you can still do business, but you have to do some more hoops to get things done. Do you hold that in reserve? I mean, it's not bad to hold an ace up your sleeve, but to your point about getting integrated, if it's going to be rough early, do you make it rougher, or do you sit there and figure out, okay, early on in the season, I know what I need to do. Then you take that DP slot and apply it in the summer to fill in the holes in your concerns there. I mean, I see it both ways. It's going to be interesting do you want to hit the ground running and just try to sort out all your problems with a full roster and all your DPs and just hit the rocket, and hit the ignition switch on the rocket and go? Or do you sit there and hold something up your sleeve? It's an interesting idea.
Because there's one name, I'll throw this whole scenario out there, because Bradley's obviously getting a little older. He's not getting any younger in the midfield, playing a lot of minutes.
No, I was going to say Bob is not getting any younger. No.
Yeah, him and his son getting up there in age a little bit. And we saw when Schweinsteiger came to MLS what happened there in Chicago in the midfield. And then he went back to center back. Looked like he maybe had his legs under him a little bit at times. And I think a scenario, Michael Bradley, center back, there's your duo there with Hedges. And you bring in a guy like another Italian, Jorginho from Chelsea, in July. Do you think that would be a scenario that would fit in Bradley's output?
Well, I mean, I think that Bob Bradley's willing to try anything, but let's look at it this way. LAFC and the reports that came out of France and our friends at Get French Football News, LAFC, we know how John Thorrington is when it comes to massaging the cap, shall we say, with Gareth Bale. And Gareth Bale is another story in and of itself. Yeah, I'm here for the long term. Wins the title. Nope, I'm out. And then he goes and now he's going to play in the Farmers Open Pro-Am at Riviera. And apparently, by all indications, he's insane as a golfer. Not a surprise. But the way that LAFC is massaging the salary cap, I would think that anything is possible. LAFC is talking to Bordeaux, I think is where Albert Ellis is. And right now, it is a €5 million purchase point with and once again, this could be lost in translation, but we made kind of fun of it on the show this morning. A quasi understanding, in quotation marks. This was how it was phrased by GFFN. A quasi obligation to purchase. Nothing to me sits there and just screams. Help me out, because I know the version here in the States. Who in Ontario can you go? What furniture store can you go to in Ontario and rent furniture with the option of buying it later? Does that exist? Is there a department store that does that?
Probably IKEA.
Okay. So something IKEA-ish. I mean, it's like going to Pizza and saying, okay, I'm hungry. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm gonna buy the pepperoni special at Pizza, or go to Swiss Chalet and go to the buffet. And you pay for the buffet up front, but then you sit there and go, well, maybe I want to just kind of camp out here. I want to just eat pizza for the rest of my life. I'll make a quasi obligation to become a frequent pizza eater. That's what you're seeing with John Thorrington right now and TFC and with LAFC. That kind of thing where they're really working the salary cap, and you bring in Chiellini and you bring in all these veterans. That kind of quasi obligations, you could see a lot of other teams do that kind of a thing. And like I said, this could be lost in translation. I'll put my hand over my heart and say it was just interestingly phrased this morning by GFFN. I want to know how many other teams see the example of GFFN. We know that Ernst Tanner in Philadelphia is not a fan of it, but we see the massaging of the salary cap, the way that Los Angeles continues to do. How many other teams start to get capologists and go down this road? I would think that TFC would be one of the first ones in line to try to figure out how to massage the salary cap. And can you do it in Canadian Tire bucks, and do it in loonies, and do it in U.S. dollars? I mean, it's like I said, there's got to be ways to massage the salary cap, and it would not surprise me to see how Toronto, who we know is a player, and I'm sure would want to just get rid of the salary cap if they had the choice, would try to bring in players like a Jorginho or that high-priced talent that we saw them bring in at the halfway point. Maybe, to your point that you made earlier, maybe that's why you hold that DP slot. You hold that DP slot till the summer. Then once again, you bring in another high-priced talent and do like you did with Bernadeschi and Criscito, and you try to work it that way. So that might be the ace up your sleeve. You sit there, you hang on to that DP slot, you put that ace up your sleeve. Come January, if using your example, a Jorginho is available, then you take that DP slot, you pay him what you can under the cap, pull that ace out, there's your DP, you got your third DP. So maybe that's why you hang on to that third DP for something in the summer window.
That's what. Just hopefully Inter Miami doesn't ruin it and start stockpiling everything before everyone could get a chance to find loopholes there.
Well, and remember, and I think it was last week, LAG, the Galaxy finally were penalized for what they did involving the salary cap. So, and that only took 3 years for MLS to come up with a decision there, getting all of the evidence that they could. And Greg Vanny's going to have to be sporting director through the summer window because of the suspension of Chris Klein. So it's interesting to see all of this stuff. But yeah, you want to see who's going to hang on to that DP slot. You want to see who's going to be going in full bore from the absolute beginning. And you know, you mentioned Inter Miami. Chris Henderson's done a fantastic job down at Inter Miami. He had close to 24 roster moves going into last season. And I give Henderson, who to me was the executive of the year, and Phil Neville, who to me was coach of the year candidate, absolutely, for everything that he did down there, with everything that they had to adjust on the fly to get what they got out of last season. Fantastic work. I think that having Chris Henderson there means that you won't have 5 DPs, or like in Los Angeles, like you had with Christian Pavone, where you had 4+ DPs and stuff like that. I think that Inter Miami's in good hands with Neville and Henderson. I think they've learned from bringing in from previous administrations when you had Blaise Matuidi come in, and then he was still getting paid to be an ambassador, and I just used air quotes again. But he got body checked into his ambassador role by Santi Sosa by Atlanta United, I think in Matuidi's first match, or one of his first matches, first home match. Literally, Santi went in for a hard check. Matuidi was like, "Oh, I thought I was just going to come here and you know, kind of pick back and go to the buffet." No, he found out it was entirely different.
And another surprising development, or maybe not so surprising if you're in PSG land, is Messi won't be going to Inter Miami. So do they change their focus there and turn their attention maybe to Neymar, who's the other name that they've been linked to for the last couple of years?
I still think, well, Messi, it is said right now that Lionel Messi is not going to sign the 1+1 that they were looking for. I still think, and it has been said by coaches in Argentina that, hey, Messi could play in 26, but you've got to find the right role for him, obviously. And are you going to say that Lionel Messi can't play in something? I don't think you're going to do that. But I've still been of a mind that with Lionel Messi winning a World Cup, winning a Copa, getting all of these things in line, it makes you wonder if he just skips and goes home. Maybe goes and plays a year at Newell's or something like that. That's what's always been in the back of my head. The progression that I have had has been one of 2 tracks. Messi does the 1+1 at PSG. And as you and I both know, quoting the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, everybody has a price. Messi signs that 1+1. That gets him to 24, 25. He signs a 2-year deal in Miami through the World Cup here in this country. And having Messi playing at Inter Miami while the World Cup is going on would just rocket Major League Soccer like nobody's business. And then he goes home. But the more that I think about it, you know, he's accomplished everything, and it's going to come down to what he wants to do with the rest of his career and his life. Dude, are you tired? Are you done? What do you think you have left in the tank? So I could see him signing at like the 11th hour, signing that 1+1 at PSG, then going to Inter Miami through the World Cup, and then going home. That's what I've been thinking the entire time. That's what I think is the most likely scenario. But if you get that vibe in your person, and you sit there and it's like, you know, man, nah, I'm tired. I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna spend time with my wife and my kid and my family, and go home. Do you do the half season, tribute you do the half season tribute back home in Argentina and retire, and if you want to run for office or whatever. No, like I said, just be aware of 2 tracks. One that involves Inter Miami through the 26 World Cup, and one that does not. So signs the 1+1, goes to Inter Miami, there for another 1+1 possibility, goes home, or skips Inter Miami completely and goes 1+1 and goes home. So both of those I think are very viable, but I think that that David Beckham is going to try to sit there and go, "Come on, you want to come and play here in Inter Miami. You want to do a year or 2, don't you?" Something like that. That sounded like a really bad Stevie from Family Guy. Yes, you want to come and play in Inter Miami, don't you? Yes, something like that. So there are 2 tracks, I think. I still think he signs the 1+1, goes to Inter Miami through the World Cup, and then retires. That's what I've always thought, but you never know. Messi could be just tired of friends and work his way and go home. What else is on your mind?
Now that we're talking about all-time greats, Kansas City.
Notice how I avoided Neymar in that discussion.
Yeah. So Kansas City isn't also one. Sporting KC.
Yeah.
They were linked with Cristiano Ronaldo, and the ownership group, if they're going to put that kind of offer out, their fan base is probably thinking, okay, you can do that kind of offer for Ronaldo. He obviously didn't choose to come to Missouri. What other player? Like, do you think that kind of is a bad thing that they miss out on a player like Ronaldo, but their fan base is going to expect someone to come in return?
Well, we can talk 5 minutes about CR37. And for me, dude, go to Saudi Arabia. That's fine. It's he proved himself to be selfish. And frankly, I knew that his time with Manchester United for me was done. There was a game early in his tenure, this time with Manchester United, and a teammate of his was getting treatment. Physios come out, they're looking at the player. They've got the carry case with all the Lucozade bottles, and Lucozade could sponsor this show if they want, because I just dropped their name. The carry case with the 4 or 6 water bottles that allegedly had either water or Lucozade in them is next to the player and the physios, and they're treating the injured player. Cristiano Ronaldo steps over the teammate to get to the 6-pack of the Lucozade bottles, gets the squirt, puts the bottle down, and walks away. I'm like, okay, no, I'm done with you at this point. I'm absolutely done with you. And he proved that Manchester United was better without him on the field than with him on the field, because everything had to funnel to Cristiano Ronaldo. Everything had to go. Bruno Fernandes had to defer. All of the deference that had to happen involving Cristiano Ronaldo, everything had to go to him. Here's a guy in the World Championship this past winter who tried to sway opinion on a goal, saying that it was his and not Bruno Fernandes's because it touched his hair. Touched my hair, therefore it was mine. It didn't touch his hair, secondly. So it was Bruno Fernandes's. But the fact that you lobby for things like that, if Al Nasser comes to the table and wants to sign you for 3 years at $225, knock yourself out. I think BN is showing the Saudi League. I don't care. In the All-Star game with PSG versus Al Nassr and Al Hilal, frankly, I enjoyed seeing Pity Martinez out there for Al Nassr doing more for his team than CR37 was. And somewhere back in here, I've got an Al Nassr. Where is it? It's back in here somewhere. I've got an Al Nassr scarf because of Pity Martinez. Cristiano Ronaldo, for me, this is all right. So, I'm trying to think. For me, this is like watching Joe Namath as an LA Ram, Johnny Unitas as a San Diego Charger. What washed up player looked weird in a different jersey for you? Doesn't matter the sport. Could be hockey, could be CFL, could be whatever. What star past his prime that was still getting paid was a weird look for you? Does one come to mind?
There's a few, but
yeah.
I don't want to disrespect them.
No, I don't think you're disrespecting them. But what the thing is here is that it was an athlete past his prime, or in the case of CR37, an athlete past his prime that demands to be the center of attention, and only a few markets can do that for you now, because basically no one in the Premier League wants to touch you. No one in any of the big leagues in Europe is going to want to touch you. You've been every place else. PSG wasn't going to work because of who else was there. And you, as much as they like to put all-star teams together at QSI, you're not going to have Messi, Neymar, and CR37. It just wasn't going to happen. to your point about Sporting Kansas City, there's a great deep dive in, I want to say, The Athletic about how it came to be. They had his discovery rights and all this kind of stuff. And so you kind of kick the tires, you do WhatsApp, you have conversations, and it was going to be more about, they were going to try to get to a price point through marketing, merchandising, and all those kinds of things. But for me, I would have waited for the moment where, and you would have had to construct a team toward Cristiano Ronaldo when you've got talent that's there already. I mean, Johnny Russell, you mentioned what you could have. You'd have to construct everything that would have to funnel once again to Cristiano Ronaldo. And it's counterproductive for me. And we know, you and I both know, that Peter Vermes was not going to take any ish from anybody. He never does. If you don't do what Peter Vermes has laid out when it comes to plan and implementation and getting things done for Sporting Kansas City, you knew that there was going to be a moment where this relationship was going to sour. So it's just, I didn't see it happening just because of the nature of Cristiano Ronaldo as a player, blending into whom we know Peter Vermes is as a head coach and a general manager. I didn't see that working successfully. I appreciate the idea that they wanted to bring in Patrick Mahomes as a part of the discussion and sit there and say, okay, we might need you to kind of close the deal to explain to Cristiano Ronaldo how he could be a normal person in Kansas City. You could go eat and you could spend time and do whatever, and you're treated as a normal person. You don't have the paparazzi and everybody chasing after you with cameras that are local media anyway, because I'm sure the international media would come and sit there and go, oh, Cristiano Ronaldo's here at the steakhouse.
Let's go fly in.
Yeah, it's like here's Cristiano Ronaldo at Joe Arthur's barbecue, and you take all the pictures. You're not going to get that from the local media. So it seemed like an odd fit, although I give Sporting a boatload of credit for wanting to go that extra mile to sit there and say, hey, look, you can talk to our star quarterback in the National Football League, and he'll tell you what it's like to live here, what it's like to be, a center of attention athletically, but you're left to your own devices personally. And so I get it, and it's a selling point for a lot of markets in Major League Soccer going forward, but you've got to do things about the cap, and you've got to do things about your DP structure, because you have owners in this league that will want to invest, as you see in Toronto, as we know in LA, as we know with the Galaxy and LAFC, with what we saw with Sporting, what we see with Seattle, what we see with Atlanta, with David Beckham and Inter Miami. You have all of these different places that want to invest, but because they're hamstrung by the cap and DP structure, they can't quite do it to the extent that they want, where Major League Soccer right now is, in my opinion, top 12 in the world. But if you go to the 2021 group or 21st group, they say it's only 29th, and it's on par with the Saudi group, which is just insane to see that. They had a recent study come out. And you see stuff like that, but MLS is getting to a point where the closer and closer we get to 2026, and this hemisphere being a host for a World Cup, that you really could sit there and just rocket up the charts as a league worldwide. But right now, because of the financial constraints you impose on yourself, you're stuck. And so MLS, hopefully because of this TV deal and its exposure and all these kinds of things, can understand that you don't want to have all of this anymore. You have owners who want to invest. You have owners who want to be global brands. They want to be those super clubs. They want to be super copas. They want to be grandes. And to be a grande, you've got to understand that you can do other things like, expand the salary cap, out of fourth DP, those kinds of things. There are owners that want to be grandes in Major League Soccer, and you've got to work around that, especially now that we've seen Sporting Kansas City wanted to chase after CR37. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff to work on, and especially, and when you think about it, the World Cup here in this hemisphere is only 3.5 years away. That ain't a
Yeah.
lot of time. That ain't a lot of time to get
Qualifying's close too, so they got to start drumming up the advertising for that.
Yeah, and so how do you want to continue to market yourself? You've done fantastic with the new Apple deal. We found out that Apple is going to have regional announce teams as a part of their deal, where you'll have some familiar faces talking about the teams in your footprint. Initially, it was kind of thought of that it was going to be like we see with the National Football League, where you have pools of announcers and play-by-play, and they go wherever. But MLS has decided to regionalize their announce teams to where it's like, okay, we're going to stick with folks that are familiar to us. And so it'll be interesting to see how all of this integrates. And we have 4 days before we are all allowed to hop onto Apple TV Plus and sign up for our season pass plans and see what Apple TV has set for Major League Soccer.
And just, I'll give an example of washed up players in another uniform. I'll go in another sport, Shaq in a Celtics uniform.
Okay.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's kind of what I was. You didn't have to stick to soccer. I mean, it was just an idea of, you sit there and it's a weird look to begin with, and then you sit there and you go, dude's been hanging on just a little too long. So those kinds of things, that to me is what I'm seeing right now with CR37, and he was actually, and they were in the Saudi Cup semifinals yesterday, as we're talking. And they were having problems, Al Nasser was, with their opponent. And apparently, either fans or somebody gave the celebration. They were mocking them with a celebration from the World Cup, from Argentina's celebrating in the World Cup, because Cristiano Ronaldo and Al Nasser were having a bit of a slow start in the Saudi Cup semi. So, yeah, dude, you called this upon yourself. You wanted to. You're the big money guy now. 3 for 225, and good luck. And you're in Saudi Arabia, and I mean, a lot of folks wanted to watch the craziness that was there with the PSG Al Hilal Al Nasser match. Here's a question I'll ask you in just a sec. But yeah, that PSG Al Hilal Al Nasser match, which was absolutely nuts. You had an amazing number for beIN, but they go into league play. No one's watching. Would you pay? Yeah. Here's my question for you. Would you pay $2.5 million for a walkthrough in the stadium and to wander into the locker rooms at Al Nasser and their opponent and get your picture made with CR37 and I guess Lionel Messi? Would you drop $2.25 million for something like that if you had the? Dude did. A dude dropped like $2.25 to get the meet and greet and to walk through the stadium and to get your picture made with CR37 and I think Lionel Messi. No way would I drop that kind of coin to do something like that, but somebody did. But that's what that part of the world does. That's how that orbit operates when it comes to what you're staring at with that. But yeah, there's no way that I would drop $2.25 just to get my picture made, to sit there and go, hey, ooh, look, a locker room. Hey, check this out. Ooh, there's a locker. There's a locker of players I don't know. Where's the CR37's locker? Oh, it's right there. Oh, there's CR37. Hi. Smile. No word on whether or not CR37 had his massage gun handy with him as he was trying to work the kinks out of his muscles. But yeah, 3 for 225, and no one is watching. This is what you have done to your career, sir. If you're Cristiano Ronaldo, if you had done this the right way, but we know that ego gets in the way a lot of the time. I think that if you had gone out on top and you had just, maybe done the World Cup as your last thing, you sit there, you score a goal, you do your swiping celebration and you're done. And you just kind of ride off into the sunset, understanding your place. I think our perception of Cristiano Ronaldo would be a lot different than those of us who are watching Joe Namath, Johnny Unitas, Shaq in a funny uniform for something that shouldn't really be. But once again, when you have an opinion of your game and where you should be, but other factors, meaning like in elementary school, I mean, I don't know if they did this when you were in elementary school, but they gave conduct grades, like respects materials, plays well with others, timely, those kinds of things. where plays well with others for the Cristiano Ronaldo report card would be a U, unsatisfactory. It wouldn't even
Needs
be.
improvement.
It wouldn't. No, it wouldn't even be an N. I would think it wouldn't even be an N. It wouldn't be an S. It wouldn't be satisfactory. I wouldn't even think it would be an N. I think it would be a U. I think it would be unsatisfactory. Although I'm sure that some teachers would give Cristiano Ronaldo an N for whatever topic. But no, it's just right now he's in conduct. He's a U for me. He's an unsatisfactory, and there are very limited places where you can operate. And one of those apparently is in Saudi Arabia, where you get a boatload of money. You get to kind of do what you want for 3 years, and they're trying to determine whether or not he'll be an ambassador to see about the Saudi World Cup competition, which is what they would like. They would like the world competition to be in Saudi Arabia in 2030. Right now, they're saying that the money that he is making is not tied to any kind of ambassadorial campaign to see if
100% believable.
Isn't it though? So yeah, right now they're saying that is not the case, that this contract has nothing to do with any kind of ambassadorial campaign about the Saudis wanting to try to have the world competition in their country in 2030. And I think that decision's coming up, I think, in the next year. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, quoting as I know him, Eli Drake, as you know him, LA Knight. Yeah. No, that's just no. I don't buy that one bit.
Just even on that, like, do you think that like a World Cup in 2030 they will go back to the winner? Like, would they experiment with that again? Like, this one was okay, but it's just timing wise. Like, do you want to go on that side of the world again? Like, 2 in that continent and 3 World Cups. Like, do you think they'll just maybe go for South America instead?
But they should for the 100th anniversary. They should, but should versus will are two different things. I mean, if you think about it, it makes entirely too much sense that you would go back to the location for the first World Cup that you ever had. But can that nation handle it? All the infrastructure, all of the other stuff. I think that you're getting to the point where you are looking at it and you're asking yourself, who can handle it? Who can handle these events? And I think you're getting to the point like you are with the Olympics. Only certain nations want it. Only certain nations want to throw out that kind of money. And I think we're getting to that with the world competition. You've got the United States in 2026. You're trying to figure out who the 27 women's world championship is going to be held. And it wouldn't surprise me if it ends up being once again in the United States, or you have the same kind of hemispheric event, which I think would be cool if you had a back-to-back like this, because we know that this hemisphere can handle a women's World Cup and a men's World Cup in 26. And I think it would be a hoot to have back-to-back like that, where you know that the infrastructure is in place. You don't have to do a whole lot of expanding or building or what have you. And you can share a women's competition and a men's competition in back-to-back cycles. 23, Australia, New Zealand coming up later this year. I think it's going to be fun to see how those two nations house a women's championship. I think it's going to be a hoot. I'd love every minute of it, and to see what it is coming up this summer. But I think you're getting to the point where nations are looking at it and it's like diminished returns. All the money that you would invest in something like this, how many nations can sit there and say, yes, we can house it. Yes, we have no fear of the budget that was going to be attached. We can handle the infrastructure, because, I mean, when you think about it, you're looking at broadcast infrastructure. You're talking about venue infrastructure, venues that have to meet certain metrics when it comes to capacity. All of these different things, the number of nations and the number of groups that can handle it are diminishing. And I understand the groundswell of the 2030 World Cup being in Europe and adding Ukraine. I understand that from a geopolitical perspective. I think it would be fantastic if that could get pulled off. But can it? That's the hook in all of this is, can it be pulled off? How many nations can do it? How many nations don't have any fear of doing it? How many nations can handle broadcast? All of the supporters that want to come, all of those little things, all those things that we don't think about. All we do as journalists, we go and cover the event. But from an infrastructure standpoint, all of the things that it takes to house something like this, that's the key here. And I think that the number of nations, that's why you're seeing more multi-country bids too, is because of not one nation being able to handle something like this. That's why you're seeing 2 and 3 nations combining their resources. A single nation is going to be tough. 26, that's why it's in this hemisphere. It's a great idea. 30, you've seen the one in Europe where they want to add Ukraine. 2030, Saudi Arabia would probably want to handle it like it was done last year. And the nation would probably do temporary structures and things like that and try to sit and say that some of the structures will remain as we build our own infrastructure, and we'll see what happens. Some will be temporary. Some will be done for ecological use where we'll build it and then it will tear down. It will be environmentally accurate, those kinds of things. So it's getting to 2030 and beyond. I think it's going to be interesting to see how it's handled because of the infrastructure and the budget issues more than anything else.
Yeah. Do you think England should be decide like that should be at the top of the list, or is it like just the pushback of like after the game, just what's going to happen in the streets over there? Does that outweigh the positives of what can happen by going to those kind of stadiums?
Well, but I mean, I think that I don't think England should be able to house it anytime soon because of everything that we saw from the competitions that were there. And and security is another element of infrastructure that you've got to be concerned about. And if England can't handle from a security standpoint what happens late in the competition where you have fans who want to go into a building. I mean, and France saw it with the Euros, France saw it at the Stade de France, and what happened there with all the tickets. And you had the Euros with England, and it was Champions League final in Paris. If you have situations in England, security for me is one of the biggest problems. And it's one of the things about infrastructure that you have to be the most concerned about these days. I can't give it to England anytime soon because they've got issues with security that they're going to sit there and go, this is our security. And then everybody sits there and points and goes, well, this is what happened last time. And it's weighing the country, your host venue versus the infrastructure issues. And security definitely is something that has to be stared at. And you have to stare at security to make sure that the event can be handled as best it can to where it's done and you feel safe in an environment too. So security is something that you really have to look at when it comes to infrastructure.
That's another MLS team. We'll go back there because we were talking about KC before, but touched on NYCFC, and they're owned by City Football Group.
Right.
If Manchester City's in a position where they have a young star on the rise, but they don't want to give him some playing time yet, could they look at that as a loan opportunity to make him be a star on NYCFC for the time being?
Oh, absolutely, it could. And that's what these models are all about. These multi-team models. That's a part of all of that stuff. So you're staring at the idea of, okay, we need to give him playing time. And so, I mean, that's kind of what you're seeing with Tati Castellanos and Alexander Cayens at Girona. That's a part of the CFG. So Castellanos moves over sideways, gets reps there, and he's getting reps in Europe. Cayens now that he's moved over to Girona, it's going to be the same thing. So that's part of your multi-team model that you're seeing more and more of these days. Just ask Bill Foley and John Textor about that in the Premier League. And on that note, gentlemen, Coach, thank you for getting the e-copy of that, and know full well that in the office with Joe is your actual physical copy that has words written on the inside of it. So next time, where is it, Joe? All right, see? He has...
But hold on, John. Are you sure that the coach can read English? Hold
Wow.
on, can you read? Did you know that John Nelson is an award-winning television journalist for 30 years? It even says it in the back here.
Yeah, that's it. So therefore it
And
must be
by the
true.
way, John, this is a good picture of you. Hey,
It's
how
amazing.
come we
Yeah.
don't have this picture?
Well, it's because it was taken when I was a lot skinnier. That's why. But yeah, so next time you see that gentleman down there, from my perspective, you, sir, and you, sir, need to connect with that gentleman because the physical copies of, hang on as I drift out of camera range, the physical copies of this, he has. He has this for both of you. So go
And
get
even autographed.
Thank you.
Pearl,
Thank you, John.
Pearls of Wisdom.
Thank you very much. I will. We should. Me and Giancarlo are going to start our book club, and that'll be the third book on our list.
Yeah, the first one is going to be the menu at Nino Diversa. I know how this works.
All right, John, I just wanted to tell everybody how to get a hold of you before you leave.
Easiest ways on the Twitter, right there at OSG Nelson. And
You go.
yeah, we're
because I don't know if you know this. We're an hour into the show, Carm. We're an hour into the show. What do you have to install the ring light? Look at the ring light. I gave it for Christmas. Look at that. You in front of you, not behind you. Come on.
Yeah, so no, we're tagging out. Easiest ways on the Twitters right there at OSG Nelson. Soccer Down Here. Get the app available iOS and Android. Soccer Down Here Daily Radio. Jason Longshore, Jared Smith, and Khalifi, myself, 9:05 Eastern Time, Monday through Friday, and a periodic program otherwise. And OSG Sports app available iOS and Android. Mahalo, gentlemen. Aloha, and we will catch up with you guys next week. Thanks again.
That's a hint that he's sending me to Hawaii for my birthday next week. All right?
Well, I thought that's where the next studio was. You moved it from San Diego, so it's moving a little further west.
Look at Carmen's face. Wow, he moved up in the world, going to Hawaii in a studio.
Yeah,
not bad.
He did. 5 hours away. Be good, y'all.
All right, thanks a lot. All right, we're joined by Carmen Asako here. I'm gonna let Giancarlo with Carm a little bit, but Carm, I gotta ask you this, okay? First of all, how's your teams doing? We're heading into February here. By the way, Carm, next week in 8 days, my birthday. expect big time cash from you. Big time cash, like a player. You know, I'm well recruited. I was recruited at whatever universities, whatever, Waterloo and London and all that. But I'm you're the headmaster coach, like Giancarlo says, the headmaster coach.
Carl never says headmaster.
Nope. Giancarlo, don't you say the headmaster coach?
No.
Master coach.
Okay, master coach. I made you the headmaster coach. Master coach, as opposed to just a coach. Can you elaborate from master coach to coach? What does a master coach do, and what does a coach does?
It's because I'm very skilled in the arts of martials.
Sensei Carmen.
Sensei. Yes.
Yeah. But obviously the ring light, he doesn't know where to put the ring light. Look at that.
Son is doing like commercials and stuff, so you need good lighting apparently, or
and you're on TV, but you don't need good lighting, right?
No. I have very fair skin, so it's okay.
So we haven't had you in over a month here, okay?
It's been a month?
Yeah, over a month. Giancarlo has refused to come on here without Carmen Asako and John Freeman Nelson. Even John had to bribe him with his book. By the way, pick his book. All right, Noble Strongs. By the way, you want this book? It's personally autographed. You give me my present. You take me to Nino Diversa for like 75 times this year, and they maybe.
That's good. Let's do that for his birthday, Giancarlo. We'll take him out for his birthday.
No, it's a cheap way. I need money, man. How do you run? I gotta run a network, man. Giancarlo is busy.
Take him to the Yorkview bubble. Watch some soccer.
There you go.
All right. So first of all, how was your New Year's? What did you do for New Year's? How's everything going, Carm?
It's just a whirlwind right now. It's like 55 things a day between recruiting, between the club, and between the kids. It's just all over the place. So, yeah, it's that's why I'm like a month. It feels like last week we were on every day doing updates of the World Cup. But, hopefully I get some time just to sit down and watch some footy and and probably give you a whole bunch of wrong information on what's happening in the game of soccer.
All right.
EFC
Nothing.
back in preseason. A big announcement coming when the 30th on Canadian Championship. So lots of stuff happening, lots of gearing up happening. So it'll be exciting, and obviously back to almost normal in Europe. Bundesliga starting up. The Italian Serie A started up. Interesting news for your beloved Juventus there, Giancarlo.
Yeah.
What an absolute disaster. And they're about to sell Chiesa and open markets and lots. That's what we wanted to talk about with John with is the whole soap opera happening in the USSF. It's crazy.
All right, I'll leave you guys to do it alone. I'll be back in 10, 15 minutes. I gotta blow dry my hair for Carm. Go ahead.
So, Carmen, as you mentioned there's a draw on January 30th. Do you believe that it's actually live, or do you think ahead of time they got some matchups they want together?
Well, I mean, if you look at how they've broken everything down between weather and between hosting and not hosting, I mean, it looks like I to be honest, I haven't gone through it, but a lot of eliminatory factors that are going to limit who's playing who. So I think the kind of who can play who is not so big anymore. So the draw will be like, I think Vaughan can draw maybe 3 or 4 teams at most because of the limited in weather and the limited of this, and so there's only the options are kind of not 50-50, but like 1 in 4 or whatever it is. So yeah, it should be interesting still. It'll be nice to see an amateur team maybe draw a Montreal Impact MLS team. So all kinds of stuff can happen still, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see on what happens. But like weather and the whole scenario and everything is kind of limited itself right now.
Do you think if I'm the Canadian Championship committee there, I'm doing something, maybe shift around with those ping pong balls that they use and put Toronto FC playing York United at Yorkland Stadium? Wouldn't that not be good for just a local brand in York region?
I agree. I mean, the last time there was an MLS team at Yorkline Stadium, it was a great game, great atmosphere. To be honest, York 9 at the time deserved better against Montreal and probably deserved to beat the MLS team, but obviously it didn't happen. But yeah, it was a great atmosphere, and it's probably exactly what that team needs to kind of ignite a little bit of enthusiasm in that CPL organization.
And the CPL released their opening weekend schedule on Monday. They're going to release a full season there. The opening weekend, they're going to kick it off there. Patrice Geyser, his debut there with Halifax. They're going to go to Ottawa. What do you make of this for our first matchup for Ottawa taking on Halifax?
Well, I mean, on paper, it seems to be a good matchup for Ottawa, but I think Halifax is going to be one of the strongest teams in the league right now, and I think that people better be prepared for Mass Farron, because he's going to be one of the best players in the league, one of the most exciting players. And you add the combination of him and Aiden Daniels, playing together in a brand new system. I think Halifax is going to be tough to figure out in the first few weeks. Added that Tabla has gone to the Turkish league, and he was a massive part of that group. I think that Halifax is raring to upset for sure a lot of teams, but week 1 especially, it's going to be a motivated bunch and some new exciting signings coming along for Halifax. So yeah, I think they better be ready for Halifax, because I think that it's going to be an exciting, very very tough team to break down, tough team to beat, and a very exciting team to watch. So it's going to be a great opening weekend. And Ottawa, Halifax, I mean, people are going to call it an upset, but I'll be upset if Halifax doesn't beat them on Ottawa's home turf.
You think Halifax, I see a lot of people getting on the nickname the Vonderers, that they're more Team Vaughan than Halifax. What do you make of this team? Like, do you think they're going to be more of a attractive team in York Region than York United is?
No, I still think there's they've added Riley Ferrazzo, Vaughn's left back, who's raring to go and just hungry. They've added Massimo Ferrin, and they're looking to add Kosi Formoso, who was another dominant player in League One. But I think that these players are all definitely players that can make an impact in any league. And I think that they better be prepared for them because they're dangerous players, and I think they'll be good complementary players to what Patrice is building over there. So, I mean, I'm not sure that's fair because, and then, you bring in Ryan Robinson, who was with Vaughan as well back in the day. But I think the biggest factor is going to be Patrice Geyser and Jordan Felician, who are very prepared coaches, very kind of in tune with what they have and how they're going to get the most of their players. I'm not so sure it's fair to say Wanderers. I like that, though. I'm not sure. I know that's the first time I heard it, but I don't think that's the case. I think Patrice and company will make a splash early and often in this league.
And then we have, to cap off that opening weekend, York United taking on Valor. So Martin Nash now second season as York's coach, and Phil DeSantos now establishing himself in Winnipeg. So what do you make of both of these coaches and the job they've done so far? And do you think that they can make a run this year for that CPL championship?
Arguably, York in the last 10 games of the season was probably the best team in the league. I'm not sure they've lost some pieces, but they gained some important pieces as well. They've made some good signing in Le Perrier, who was, for me, one of the best midfielders that could play left back as well in the league. Losing Isaiah Johnson, Ensa is going to be, and obviously the Zator, the main one, is going to be important. It's going to be huge for them. But, still trying to sign a Roger Thompson. And we'll see who else they add. But I think that up top, they're probably the most dominant force with Babuli and with Di Rosario. And they just added Brian Wright, who's, for me, was one of the best strikers in the league as well. So going forward, they're going to be crazy tough to defend. I think they'll be very useful in the midfield. Adding Adekubi as well, who's a proven defensive midfielder with great range, great ability. I think that he'll be important for this group. And the familiarity with Nash is going to be important as well. So I think that Nash, who did a great job, especially at the end there, and missing out on the playoffs by not a lot, is there's going to be more of a Nash feel to this team, and I think that they'll be fighting for a playoff spot for sure. But replacing a Dominic Zator isn't easy. Replacing an informed Ensa and Isaiah Johnson isn't easy. But I like what they're doing so far. And obviously you got the unknowns. The midfielder from Holland, the Dutch midfielder, Usama something is going to be one of those that you hope. There's rumors going around that they've signed Justin Earl from League One, who for me is a fantastic player, and I think he'll fit in well if he does come on board to York United. And again, that's not confirmed. Joe DiChiari in camp could be useful if they decide to sign him moving forward. So yeah, lots of Paris G, who I think is a very good player. And obviously they need to replace their center backs. Valor, on the other hand, Dos Santos has taken a chance on some players that were in the CPL but didn't get that massive role. I thought he did some really good things in the end there. but him too, and he might. I think he has Rhea back, who's one of the most exciting players in the league. So it'll be interesting. I don't think that the signings that Valor have made are going to take off right from the get go. I think it's a project type team that he's kind of replaced with. Losing Rocco Romeo to Vancouver is going to be big for them as well, because I thought he was an important piece. There's a lot of question marks on what, and they also lost Brett Levis to MLS Next or USL Pro, sorry, and the retirement of some players in that roster. I'm not so sure that they're going to be better. Right, they were fighting for a playoff spot right to the last moment there, but I don't know that the roster moves that they made, that Philip made so far, have made that team better. So it should be interesting to see how they come out. There are a lot of project players, a lot of players that were kind of on their way out with their clubs. So we'll see. I think that's par for the course for a lot of these teams. For like even Atletico Ottawa losing a Tabla, there's rumors that Noah Verhoeven will be a replacement there, and he was a steady possession type player. But I mean, it's still a lot of work to do. And again, I'm not sure Atletico Ottawa got better. I mean, if I look at the teams moving forward, a lot of those teams, there's lots of room on some of the rosters. But I think that Halifax has made some good moves. I think they're going to be definitely better and fight for. And then Forge is going to be, they losing Nanko, losing Johnny Grant. Hopefully they work it out with Becker, because he's probably been the face of the league since its inception. So there's a lot of change in the CPL, and it's going to be interesting to see. And I think that Vancouver is going to be. Wow, it's going to be tough for them. I think I'm not sure they've made some moves that are going to put them in the top four right from the beginning, or right now that seems like other than Rocco Romeo, who I think as a proven center back is going to be one of the better ones in the league. They haven't really addressed a lot of situations. Their draft picks are going to be relied upon, and they're unproven commodities. The white kid, the white from University of Toronto, there's going to be a lot of pressure on him as the number one pick. And Amir coming in from Toronto Metropolitan University up top, there's going to be a lot of pressure on him to kind of be efficient right away. And he didn't dominate the OUA this year. So yeah, a lot of question marks, a lot of questions in the whole team creating for me is I've gone unanswered. But Calgary, I think, is going to dominate. I think Forge is still going to be a dominant group. I think Pacific will be, part of that group. I just don't see anyone that has made the jump. And right now, if I had to predict things, it still looks like Forge and Calgary dominating, with Halifax knocking on the door very quickly. York United, obviously, if they get that center back or re-signing Roger Thompson is going to be very important. And then there's that kind of group in the middle. Like, I think Valor's in that group in the middle. I think that Vancouver needs to make some signings quick that are going to make a difference, right? So for me, they did sign Nat St. Louis, who had a mediocre NCAA career, but is a kid that has an upside and can be produce, and still I just think that they haven't really found their best 11 yet. And even like Valor, signing of players like Bitar, who are proven and probably maybe are at their peak point. Let's hope for Valor's sake. And Vancouver, or was it Vancouver signed Gabe Bitar? I can't remember. I'm sorry. Marcus Simmons, another one that played at York. A lot of upside coming along, but still, as he found his peak, he did an honorable work at at Edmonton last year. Played a lot of minutes and did some good stuff. But let's see if he's going to be just a piece or he's going to develop into a leader. So a lot of question marks for me. Let's see how it all unfolds.
Yeah, and like I was just looking at the schedule here, and one thing that surprised me was Vancouver FC. It's their inaugural game, but they're going to be on the road against Pacific. Do you think they made a mistake here? Like, why isn't Vancouver FC hosting Pacific instead of the other way around where they're traveling?
Right? I think either place you're going to have a massive rivalry, and it'll be to give them a good taste of what the league is right away. It's going to be right away, like just establishing that rivalry, and it'll give probably Vancouver a little more time to set up their stadium, set up what they need to do. I think it'll be useful for them to have that next and see. I mean, obviously the ownership is pretty much the same, and Rob Friend is still kind of helping support both groups. But I think it's important for Vancouver to maybe have that extra week, but it established that rivalry that's going to be incredible for sure.
And final topic here on this Canadian Premier League is, do you think they're making enough of a deal of some of the free agents out there? Like, should there be like constant chatter, like kind of like the NHL with TSN, how they have like free agent frenzy? Do you think there needs to be more of a focus on, okay, these players are available, what team should be the best fit, instead of a team just going on their social media and saying, oh, look who we signed, like with no hype, nothing around it?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think teams marketing is the way to go, but I'm the last person that should be talking about social media and marketing, and because I'm absolutely clueless. But yeah, I mean, there were some players there. Obviously, maybe a little more should have been made of the Edmonton players going other places. You know, there's still some players like players that were with Edmonton that are still unsigned that might make an impact in this league, whether it's Niall Higgins or Kale Lowry, players of that ilk. Timoteo went back to Halifax, who should be a big addition, but and maybe we should have made more, but we haven't seen that big player movement. Like, Manu Aparicio is still Pacific property, and that would have been probably a more talked about move if he was moving forward or moving on. Obviously they made a big deal about Bustos signing in Sweden, and that's a big loss to Pacific and the league itself. And obviously like the Becker situation, still unsigned. Hopefully they're working it out with Forge, or hopefully he stays within the CPL, because like I said, he's been the face of the CPL and done an amazing job promoting the league. And there's other situations. We lost Knudsen probably to USL. And different situations that are coming forward. But yeah, have we made enough hype, or it's kind of cart before the horse situation? Is it the players that haven't been, like, they're the big enough names to come through, or that are moving, or is it the hype that's been made about those situations, like you say? Yeah, but I think there are some people talking about it. I think there are some shows other than ours that talk about it. And I think that the local markets have to probably do a better job kind of giving them that visibility.
All right. So as we close off the first soccer show of 2023, Carm, tell us how your team's doing. It looks like Sunday we're going to have another snowstorm and all that. But how's your team's doing?
Yeah, we're just moving along. Some players are in some CPL kind of pre-season training. Some are training with TFC2. So it's about the exposure. it's about the continuous training and seeing where we're at. And recruiting's big as well. Some players on the female side, they're working really hard, and we have some exhibition games coming up and the League One season coming up. So everyone's prepping, everyone's preparing. There's still a lot of unknowns with players, some moving on to CPL, so the Canadian, and some moving on to different pathways in life. So I wouldn't call it instability. I would just call it some preseason preparation, and we'll see other kids that were kind of under the radar come up and make a difference right now.
And have you talked to any of your Team Canada former players and all that since the World Cup, and how are they doing there? It's about a month, two since the World Cup. How is everybody doing there?
Yeah, everyone's working hard. Everyone's in their preseasons or back into the seasons. Mark and Kamal are in their seasons. Obviously, we saw Alistair Johnson play his first game against Rangers in the Derby and was fantastic. And he's all the reports are he's doing well. There's lots of work to be done, lots of proving to do, and MLS is just around the corner. MLS is just around the corner. By the time we blink, it's going to be starting up again. I know that TFC is back for a few days, and then they're off to back to California. I think one of their big preseason games against San Jose in coming up soon. So there's and not only the Toronto FC players, but the other players involved in MLS and USL and CPL are almost at full fitness and getting ready to play. Whether it's the Canadian Championship coming up in early April, or league starting in early April, or MLS starting in the next couple of weeks. So lots of excitement coming, and obviously a lot of them are deep in their season with their pro leagues in Europe.
And just a side note, I know Carm is a huge fan, but apparently Austin Matthews today will be gone 3 to 4 weeks with a knee sprain. So, Carm, some of the players had knee sprains and ankle injuries and all that, but to your ability for a hockey player, is 3 or 4 weeks right for a knee sprain?
Well, it's all that, Kawhi Leonard load management, right, these days. Like, does it matter if Austin Matthews sits out and you bring up or you get someone else some more time? I mean, it's still the same scenario in hockey for me. I mean, for soccer, 3-4 weeks is really big because of continuity, and and hockey, I'm not so sure. Yes, reps are important, but being fresh for the playoffs, I think, is important, because the Leafs are going to have to get through Tampa or Boston, and same old scenario. It's going to be, their first round is going to be important. So why would not have your best player or your second best player, because Mitch Marner, taking some time off? Yeah, in soccer, we have those scenarios. Obviously, in our league where you're playing, it's a sprint. It's not a cross country race, and every game's important for the university level game. But so it's all relative. Kawhi Leonard missing every 2-3 games obviously paid dividends. So Austin Matthews getting a rest, I think, is going to pay dividends. So, for some players, yes.
Everybody watches this show. Everybody, and it's not for the hairstyle for Giancarlo Lino. All right, are you going to confirm or deny that you want to be a replacement for Austin Matthews? I will, because I know a guy from formerly of Sportsnet, and you know who I'm talking about, wants to write the story. Do you confirm or deny that you're coming for a tryout?
I know an Austin Matthews in the Marco Men's Basketball League, and I think I may replace him as a 2 or a 3 in the Marco Men's Basketball League. That's the Austin Matthews I will be replacing. Yes.
I knew you're going to see, this is a segue. I knew you're going to say that, and I got a scouting report from Drew Ebanks on pointbasketball.com, all right, about Carmen Asako. All right, hold on here. Carmen Asako, if I could spell his name right, he would be on the sheet. for minus points in basketball. This is according to Drew Ebanks. All right. So what do you have to say to Drew Ebanks, Captain Canada?
I have a court ready for him. Anytime he wants to get step on the court, whether it's 1-on-1, 3v3, or 5v5, bring it on.
All right. So we talked about soccer. We talked about hockey. I got to ask you this. And Giancarlo knows where I'm going here. There's the AFC NFC Championship game this Sunday. All right. NFC, give me your pick. It's the San Francisco 49ers at the Philadelphia Eagles. Your pick.
I think the Eagles defense is incredible, and San Fran is, I mean, I thought if that game's probably in Dallas, they win, but yeah, I'm picking the Eagles regardless.
AFC Championship game Sunday 6:30, Cincinnati at Kansas City, and talk about ankles. Patrick Mahomes injured, not going to be 100%.
Wait, isn't Josh Allen in this? I'm confused.
Giancarlo will never be on the soccer show again. Giancarlo will never be on the soccer show again. But go ahead, Carm.
I mean, the Bengals beat a bad team in the Bills, so I think the Kansas City is
again. I say Giancarlo and Carmen Asako will never be on the soccer show. All right, so Carm, your fits are up and all that. Also, Saturday night, Giancarlo knows this. It's the Royal Rumble. All right, Giancarlo wants to know who's your pick to win the males Royal Rumble. Carmen Asako on the line here.
Ricky Steamboat.
The Dragon, Ricky Steamboat. Yes, if this was 1985, Dragon would win.
Roberts, and I think the final three would be Jake the Snake Roberts, Ricky Steamboat, and Superfly Snuka, Jimmy Superfly Snuka.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
I think be in the final, and Snuka's gonna miss the Superfly, and Steamboat's gonna toss him out for the win.
There you go.
Should join creative.
You see, he is after Triple H and Vince McMahon. He wants to join creative, all right? Any big plans for the weekend?
Volleyball tournaments with my daughter. We have a game Sunday morning, and actually we're going to be at the BMO Cup with my club, playing against some of the best U19 and U17 players in the province. And I get to sit and watch TFC and Vaughn, and it'll be a good exposure of talent at BMO training facility or that other field now, which is called City View Dome, I believe, the new facility at
Downsview Park. Also, but let's give your daughter a shout out. Is this a volleyball final, a championship?
You know, they do a bunch of tournaments all year, and I think that they're just kind of going for rankings. So and then there's the provincial championship. I think happens in April. So yeah, she's doing well. She's enjoying it. That's the most important thing to say, is that the kids need to enjoy what they're doing, and they need not pressured by their parents. They just need to go in there with a good attitude, not be afraid to make mistakes. And parents, sit down, clap, and watch and cheer, kind of like I do.
And sports, Carm, sports is supposed to be fun. That's why if you look at the initials of the Fired Up Network, FUN. Forget about, FUN spells Giancarlo, in case you don't know, because you're going to have to read John Nelson's book here. All right, John Nelson's book here.
I read coloring books. I don't read words.
Coloring books. You color out of the margin there. Carm, can't you teach him even how to color, man? Come on, he can't even color. All right.
Are there pictures in this book? Like lots of pictures?
And let me go through the book here. All right. Yeah, there are some pictures there, and here it's personalized. To Carm. And it says here. Hold on, Carm. Hold on here. To Carm, the headmaster coach of York University. You need a haircut at least once every 2 weeks. And thanks for doing the show, making it the #1 rated show on international internet TV and everything like that. That's from John Freeman Nelson, Check out his book, Noble Strong. All right, Giancarlo, as we close it out, tell everybody how they could get a hold of you. And Giancarlo, again, he predicted, tell everybody who you predicted for the Royal Rumble.
Oh, that's I got to remember that. That was yesterday. Yeah, I predicted The Rock for the men and Mandy Rose for the women's match.
All right,
The Rock.
Yeah, The Rock. Do you know who The Rock is? Dwayne Johnson. But first of all, Carm. Dwayne Johnson, right, has much zeros in his account as I do. And who would you say is better looking? All right, myself or Dwayne Johnson?
I think you got him by a pebble.
And listen, and my hair is definitely better than his, right? My hair is definitely better than his. Look at that. Okay?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Carl.
The overall package.
Yeah, I'm the total package. All right, go ahead, Giancarlo. Tell everybody how they get a hold of you.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter, John_411, Instagram, Giancarlo_Alino. Check out my articles on firedupnetwork.ca and sportskeeda.com. And check out my interview if you're in Toronto. It should be airing again. It's a guest that you probably know. He's sitting right beside me here, Carmen Asako. So tune in to check out that interview.
Hold on. Wait a minute. Was I advised of this interview?
Is this why I'm getting all that hate mail? I thought it was just me and you on a Zoom call, and all of a sudden I'm getting all this hate mail.
Listen,
lucky I'm hating me. Lucky I'm used to people hating me.
As your new agent, you do not do outside interviews. You do not do outside interviews. Other people from other organizations will come and write fake stories. You know, fake stories?
I had no idea he was taping. I thought it was just a conversation between me and Giancarlo, and all of a sudden I'm getting, what do you say this for? What's going on? Yeah. Now I'm blackballed from freaking everything I'm supposed to be doing. So thank you, Giancarlo.
You're welcome, Carmen.
See, this guy, I taught him everything to know. All right, proud of you, Giancarlo, proud of you. All right, check out that interview with the head master coach of York University men and ladies soccer, Carmen Asako. And if you're in the Vaughan, Maple, or whatever, go out and visit the volleyball tournament, right? You got a volleyball tournament. Do people, when you go to the volleyball tournament, do they stop you and ask you, well, what's TFC? What's York United? What's everybody but your team? Do they ask you how they're going to be doing this year?
No, they just say, hey, I saw your video with that Alino kid, and you know.
All right. Go ahead. Nothing? All right. Stay tuned for more great programming here on the Fired Up Network. We may or may not do a Maple Leaf pre- and post-game show tonight. Friday night, Maple Leaf action. The Maple Leafs